Hey everyone, my name is Mars, like the planet, and this is Housewarming. Here on YouTube, I have shared a ton about my mental health journey. I have talked about my anxiety. I've talked about being on anxiety medication. I've talked about my eating disorder. And as you can see by the title of this video, today I'm going to be talking about grief. And I think that a lot of times people just think that grief is just being sad when someone dies. And it did not take until I lost my father that I truly understood how deep grief goes, how it is almost like a mental illness that is impossible to get over at some points. And so I really wanted, as I do in every video, I just want to share my story and what I'm feeling and what I'm going through in hopes that someone out there understands and feels like they're not alone. Now, I do understand that it is heartbreaking to lose someone that is close to you, to lose someone that you love. And maybe if you are not ready to watch this video yet because it is still too fresh, the wound is still too fresh, I completely understand that. But I do feel like I'm at a point where I can really discuss what I went through losing my father, who was maybe not the best person, and what that feels like. You know, it is sad when people die, but I think there's so many complicated emotions when someone dies because they were human at the end of the day. They were a person that had flaws, and sometimes people die and you're like, well, maybe it was for the best that they passed away. Maybe they weren't a great person. Maybe they did do horrible things in their life. And maybe when that person is close to you and they pass away, you feel like you should be sad. You feel like you should have certain emotions, and maybe those emotions aren't presenting themselves in the way that you thought they would. So today I'm just going to share my story about losing my father to cancer, who was an alcoholic, and he just really wasn't the greatest person. I did love him as my father. I did truly love him. But yeah, I just want to share my story in hopes that it helps somebody out there. So my dad passed away from stage 4 lymphoma as well as other health complications in July of 2021. So it's been a few years since he's passed, and he passed away very quickly. Just a little bit of background. My parents are divorced, and so I was not around my dad a lot. He did not really raise me. I did see him a lot. I do feel like it wasn't just like a estranged father or anything like that, but my dad was an alcoholic. My dad was abusive. My dad, did anything he could to get his way. And a lot of times he was quite hard to be around. It was quite difficult to be around him. He was just a force to be reckoned with, and he wanted people to know that. And he would verbally and physically abuse people in his life. He would make sure that he kept our family apart so we wouldn't get together and kind of talk about how bad he was. He wanted to keep us apart so we couldn't be like, are you experiencing the same thing I am? Because I think we are all being terrorized by this man. And now that he's gone, we can look back and almost laugh about it in a way. But it's hard when your parent is abusive. It's hard when your parent is suffering with addiction. It's hard when your parent has flaws. And my dad and I were not speaking for quite some time, and he called me and he told me that he had cancer. This was in April of 2021, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, I thought honestly that my dad would die like in a drunk driving accident or something. That's how much he drank. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe my dad has cancer, but it's stage 1, lymphoma is quite treatable. Like, I remember him even saying like, which I'm not going to die, like I'm going to be fine. So I was like, okay, cool. So April came and went, May came and went, June, we kind of realized that things were way worse than I thought they were. And by July, I was called to go to Houston where my dad lives, and I spent my last week with him. I realized that he had had cancer for quite some time and did not say anything, did not tell anyone, and truly just thought that it was going to go away. I don't know. He did not trust doctors. He didn't take care of himself. He just was like, I'm a man, I'm grown, I don't need to go to no doctor. And so the cancer was at stage 4. He also had other health complications that I found out about the week before he passed that I didn't even realize. were affecting him. So that made his treatment a lot harder. A lot of things were just kept very hush hush because I know a lot of people don't want to see, like, they don't want people feeling bad for them. They don't want people to see them sick. And if you've ever dealt or had someone in your life that had cancer, you know how it can affect their body and how they look. Now, some people have cancer, they go through chemo and, they might shave their head and, move on. But a lot of times when people have cancer, they lose a significant amount of weight, especially if they have other health complications. So I saw my father and he looked like a skeleton. This was a, almost 6 foot tall, 300-pound man that had been whittled away to a skeleton. And we kind of made peace with the way our relationship was, the good and the bad of it. And on July 18th of 2021, I laid my father to rest. And it was so shocking to me, honestly. I was just like, wow, that happened so fast. Like, we went from April to him being gone. And we decided to cremate him. I also have a stepmom. I have a younger brother. I was trying to console them. And honestly, we felt good. We felt fine. It did not really hit me yet that my dad was gone. We knew he was sick. I didn't want to say, oh, Dad, I just wish you would stay around longer, because he had cancer. And I didn't think it was fair to keep him alive when he was sick. But then I also thought about, well, I wasn't really talking to him before this. Like, did I really want to wish my dad was alive, being a menace to society? And it's like, I say these things because I want to be truthful, but I do think that it was kind of a net positive that my father passed away. I'm not saying that he deserved to die. I'm not saying he deserved to have cancer, but sometimes when bad people pass away, we just say, well, that kind of sucked, but at least we're better now. We're not being abused. We're not being, yelled at. I don't have to deal with my alcoholic father anymore. There was really no fixing the situation. And so it was like, well, at least he didn't suffer with cancer for years and years and years. At least he wasn't in hospice. This was very quick. At least we didn't have to shell out thousands of dollars to pay for a nurse or, putting him in a facility or him being in the hospital for months on end. Maybe this was the best way for him to go. And I think my family was really all at that consensus that this gray cloud over us was gone. And the cloud parted and the sun came out and we were like, wow, look at our family. We made it through the storm. We made it through this hurricane that was tossing our lives up. We kind of made it. And I thought I would feel that way. And I kind of still do. But then I got home and it hit me. The permanence of his death hit me, that anyone that I ever met for the rest of my life would not know my father, good or bad. My brother would not have a father anymore. My father would not ever meet my grandkids, meet his grandkids if I had children. He would never see me get married. He would never see us grow old. I would never see my father grow old. Even in his drunken state, it was over. And it was permanently over. It wasn't like he was away on a vacation in a private island. It wasn't like he was in jail. It wasn't like, he was just gone for a little bit and he'd be back. He was gone. And it really, really hit me. And I just cried. And I didn't know why I was crying, because that's the thing, is that grief is so weird. Because yes, I'm sad that he's gone and I'm sad that he's died. But it's like, this man really died. Like, he died. Like, he actually is gone and he died. And that's just so sad to me. Like, he really died. And I don't know the best way to explain it, but it's like, he really's gone. And that's so sad to me. And not from a personal experience, but just for him. It's like, I feel so sad for him. He's gone, he really died. And it was just so many emotions, because while I know a lot of people lose friends and family and they just say, I wish I had one more day with them. I wish I had them back. Take me instead, Lord. I didn't feel that. I don't want my dad back. I really don't. And it was so weird. After he passed, the condolences start coming in. People are so sorry for your loss. People are commenting on your Facebook post. And for a moment, it felt like my entire family was coming together to support me and my brother and my stepmom, and everyone was coming together, and it felt great. It felt like for one time, like all of this was worth it. I had all of my family telling me how much they loved me and, oh, we're here for you. And if you need anything, just let me know. And, people were like, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry you lost your dad. And I was like, wow, I really have friends. I really have friends that support me. And then a week went by, and then a month went by, and then 6 months went by. And all those people that were close to me, all those people that were like, I'm here if you need anything, they went on about their lives. And I started to hate that. I was like, how dare y'all go on with your lives? My dad died. How dare you? And sometimes it's so irrational to think that, but I started to get mad at other people for going on. It was like, how dare you go and hang out with your dad? My dad died. And it was just such a weird feeling because, this brought my family together and we were always calling each other, how you doing? How you feeling? My dad passing really, really brought all of my extended family out of the woodworks, and, we all were eating and hanging out and spending time together. And then time passed and things just kept moving on. And I felt like I was still stuck. And once again, it wasn't because my dad was gone and I wanted him back. I was just like, I loved having my family around, and it was just sad that he died. It was so sad that he died. And I just couldn't believe it. And I was just like, I really lost my dad. That's really going to be in my biography, that my dad died from cancer. And I hate to use such harsh language, but, I'm just trying to be honest. And it was like, and everybody's just going back to work? I got to go to work tomorrow? Everybody's just acting like we're just normal? Like this man didn't die 2 months ago? Okay. And it just was so weird that all of this love and support that I had just washed away. It came in like the ocean and then just washed away. And everyone went back to their normal lives because that was it wasn't their dad that died. And I just think it's so hard to realize. I've had friends that have lost family members, and of course you say the same thing. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. And then you go on about your day. That's not your grandmother. I don't know her. I'm sorry that you're feeling this way, but you just go on about your day. And it's so weird when the tables are turned that you're like, I'm the only one that's still sad. I'm the only one that's still crying. I'm the only one that's still talking about it. And then you start to feel like a burden because you're still crying. 2 months, 6 months, a year later, 2 years later, you're still crying about your dad being gone. And people are like, oh, sorry. People just don't know what to say anymore because what can they say? And then that was another thing. I started to get angry because I was like, y'all aren't telling me what I want to hear. I don't know what I want to hear, but y'all aren't telling me what I want to hear. I lost my dad. My dad just died and you're going to tell me sorry for your loss? What? Get that out of here. That's not doing nothing for me. And people would just be like, oh, it gets better with time. No, it doesn't. My dad died. He's not coming back. You realize I got to live the rest of my life and I don't get to hear his voice. I don't get to hear him yelling. I don't get to see him drinking. I don't get any of that ever again. And you're going to tell me it gets better? I literally have to go the rest of my life without him. Yeah, I didn't like him, but now he's dead, and I have to just laugh to keep from crying at this point. But the irrational thoughts in your head when you have lost someone sometimes, it's just so it's crazy how your brain starts to handle grief. And that's what I said. Grief is not just being sad. Grief is so many different emotions. I felt mad. I felt all kinds of just stages of things. And it would just hit me like a truck. Some days I'd be fine and I'd be like, yeah, I miss him, but I'm good. Let's laugh about the good times. I even have an urn with his ashes. We cremated him. We, spread his ashes in the lake. Even after a year after, my dad passed, we had a balloon release and I was like, wow, this is so great, and then it would just hit me and I'd be like, this man really gone. And I would just cry. And then I would get angry because I'm like, why is no one else feeling what I feel? Everyone else has just moved on. Even my family members have just moved on. And I'm just like, but what can I want? What do I actually want? I don't know what I want. I don't know what I actually want people to say to me. I don't want my dad back alive. I don't want him to have cancer. I don't want him to be an alcoholic menace. But dang, this situation just sucks. Like, it just sucks. And it's so hard to try to describe that to people who have never lost someone significant in their lives. Like, yeah, we've all had great Aunt Judy pass away. And yeah, we've had our second cousin's grandfather pass away. But when it's someone so like close to you, when it's someone that you just like weren't expecting, because we all expect, older people to pass. When it's your dad and he's in his 50s, you're like, oh, that kind of got me. Like, that was such a life lesson. Is just dealing with grief is just odd and weird. And then, a lot of people say, oh, do you miss your dad? Do you miss him? And I'm like, no, not really. I really don't miss him. He was kind of crazy and he was a menace and he was rude and loud and he drank and he was just not that great of a person. No, I don't really miss him. I'm kind of like, okay that he's gone. But then I'm like, wait, he's gone. I'm sad again. And it's just this back and forth dichotomy in my head. And I just hope someone out there understands and can relate to this, that like losing someone is so weird. It's so weird. And I know that there was a time when me and my dad didn't even have a good relationship. And it's like, I get so sad. I'm like, my dad will never see me get married. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I wasn't even talking to this man. We didn't even have a great relationship at some points in my life. I don't even know if I was going to invite him to my wedding because I didn't want him to be drunk. But now I'm like grieving just the thought of him not being at my wedding, or grieving the thought of him never seeing his grandkids, or grieving the thought of him never seeing me turn 30 or 40 or 50. Like, please tell me somebody understands what I'm saying. Like, it's not just I'm sad and I want my dad back. Grief is so weird. But that's kind of like the gist of my story. I think too that like grief can take over in really serious ways. I've seen family members that have lost people unexpectedly and are never the same again. I have seen, people very close to me that lose someone that never recover and go into a very deep, dark depression. I also think that grief is not just about losing a loved one. It's not just about death. I think you can grieve a lot of things. I think you can grieve a breakup. You can grieve, losing a job. You can grieve losing a friend. You can grieve, moving away. There are a lot of different forms that grief can take. And it's okay to feel that way when you're just like, why do I feel this way? Why am I so sad? Why am I so... Grief is not just sadness. It's also being sad for what isn't. It's being sad for the future that you're never going to have. When you have to leave your job, or you graduate, or you have to move across the country for some reason, or someone does die, or you break up, you're like, there is a future now that I will never have because things are different. There is an outcome that will never happen because me and this person are not friends anymore. And I am sad about that. I'm sad about that loss, that would have, could have, should have, that is not happening anymore. And I'm sad about that. And I feel this weird sense of it could have been this way, but it won't. And I think that grief is also very valid as well. I think that it is very normal to grieve a breakup and to say, this is a person I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, and now my life looks completely different. This is someone who I thought I would have children with. This is someone who I do have children with, and now my children are going to have divorced parents. This is someone I thought I'd, travel the world with, and now I'm not. And that feeling, that grief that you have is just so like, a lot of times in movies, you obviously see people being sad about people dying, but a lot of times when you break up with someone, you see, oh, I gotta, get back out there. I gotta be on the scene. I gotta go out. I gotta, get a makeover and cut my hair and do all of these things and just get back out there to see what the guys are doing or what the girls are doing, and sometimes you're like, no, this kind of sucks. This kind of hurts. Like, I'm not over this yet. And people can think like, oh yeah, after a week, you're over this, girl, right? You are over this. And grief can hold on to you. It can hold on to you for years. You can say, oh yes, I've moved on, from this event, but it still just like holds on to you. And you're never sure when it's going to rear its head, but you're like, wow, I am so sad that happened to me. And it sounds a little selfish to say, but you're like, dang, I cannot believe that happened to me. Sometimes I'll be like, is this real life? It's just actually happening to me right now, because this is crazy. Like, I thought this only happened in movies. I cannot believe right now that this is my real life. And that's just sad. It's just pitiful sometimes. Now, if you're hoping that this video is going to give you ways to overcome grief, I don't have them. I am still grieving the loss of my father. I am still grieving a lot of things that have happened in my life. And I think that's perfectly normal and valid. I think that if you've just lost someone, if you've just gone through something very difficult and hard and grueling in your life, I am not going to sit here and say, oh, it gets better, sweetie. Oh, yes, you just don't understand. Just wait a year. You'll feel so much better. Because that's not true. I don't want to lie to you. I didn't even mention, even when you lose a pet, even when your dog dies, your fish dies, or something like that, and people are like, oh yeah, like, just, okay, move on, get another one. And it's like, I'm really sad about this. Like, and I'm still sad. I'm still sad a week, a month, 6 months, a year later. And people look at me like I'm crazy because it's been 2 years since my dad died, and I'm still sad. I still feel some type of way about it. I'm still grieving that. And so I can't say, oh, it gets easier. Oh, it gets, I don't know if it does. I think that hole will always be there, where that person used to be, where that event used to be, where that thing used to be there. It's always going to be there. Now, I will say I do cry less. I will say that I'm able to control my emotions a lot more with time passing. But it is just horrible. I think that to say, oh, it gets better with time. No, it don't. No, it really doesn't. I think that if grief is holding you on too much, and you're finding yourself depressed and anxious and unable to really function, I would consider going to grief counseling. I did not go to therapy specifically for my dad passing, because I do feel like I handled it in a very healthy way. I was already in therapy. I was already on medication at the time. So I'm sorry, I was already in therapy. I was not on medication yet, but I was already in therapy when this did happen. So it wasn't too hard to deal with, but even my stepmom, she was going to therapy twice a week because of this. So do understand that there are resources out there for you. If you are just struggling with something, understand that therapy is an option for you, although that's a whole nother story. But do understand that is there for you. But I understand if you have just lost someone, if you have just lost a pet, if you have just lost someone close to you, if you have just lost, it's hard. Oh my God, it's so hard. But I don't want to keep going on, because I understand that this subject is just quite sad and quite down, and I want to bring joy to people. I want to make people laugh, and sometimes just talking about death is just really heavy. But I do like to share these things because I want people to know that you're not alone in what you're feeling. And sometimes you might feel guilty and say, why do I feel that way about this person? Why do I kind of wish this person was gone? Why am I maybe not crying? Why am I maybe not that sad? Why? I should feel this way, but I don't. I understand that it is okay and it is perfectly normal. But yeah, I hope this ramble kind of made sense. I do encourage you to talk about it in the comments down below, because I do read them. I read every single comment, even if I don't reply to it. I do read every single comment. It's just good to know that, hopefully I don't sound crazy. Hopefully I don't sound weird for saying the things that I did about, my dad. But yeah, that does it for this video. I post new videos every single Wednesday. You can really help out my channel by subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing this video with people. Definitely just helps with engagement and helps more people on YouTube see these types of videos. But yeah, I post new videos every single Wednesday, so I will see you guys next week. I love you, and I hope you have a great day, and whatever you are struggling with, just know that you are not alone, and just know that I really don't want to be like, it's gonna all be okay, but you're gonna get through this. You're gonna get through it. I know you are. It will probably be the hardest thing you may think you have to do, but you're gonna get through it. Okay, bye.